Welcome to the deep dive. So you've sent over some really interesting articles about SaaS sales models.
Yeah, looking forward to getting into these.
Definitely. Our plan today is to really unpack these different approaches. We want to go beyond just listing them and figure out, what makes them tick, why picking the right one is just so vital for growth.
Absolutely. And it's not just about growth, as the sources suggest it impacts, well, everything down to funding.
Exactly. It sends a signal. The stuff you shared, the articles, they make it clear this isn't just some tactical choice.
No, it's fundamental. It's baked into how the business scales, how it generates revenue. It's really part of the company's DNA.
Right. And one of the articles laid out three main models pretty clearly: self-serve, transactional, and enterprise.
The big three, yeah.
Think of them like different engines, maybe, each built for a different kind of journey, different kind of growth.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And each has its own, characteristics, best use cases, and of course, challenges.
So let's explore those. Maybe we start with self-serve. Seems like the logical starting point for many.
Sounds good. So self-serve. The defining thing here, according to the sources, is basically minimal or even zero direct sales involvement.
Okay, so no salespeople calling you up.
Pretty much. Marketing does the heavy lifting. It's all about awareness, content, automation, making that sign-up process super smooth.
Right, so marketing brings people in the door, digitally speaking, and then the product itself, maybe with some automated guides or emails, takes over.
Exactly. The product and the automated systems guide users towards becoming paying customers.
And the articles point out this works best, or maybe only works, for lower price products, right?
Yeah, precisely. If your subscription is, say, $10 a month, you just can't afford a salesperson for every single one. The math doesn't work.
The cost of that human touch would just eat any potential profit.
Totally. And another key point from the reading is the market itself. It relies on customers who are comfortable doing it themselves.
UI customers.
Yeah, they need the technical know-how, or at least the willingness to sign up, get started, and find value on their own, using help docs for tutorials.
So it caters to a pretty self-sufficient crowd. But there's a challenge mentioned too, right? Something about lead volume.
Ah, yes. You often get a lot of leads-free trials, freemium signups, which sounds great, but it's hard to tell who's just kicking the tires and who might actually become a valuable paying customer or, upgrade later. Lead quality is the tricky part.
Got it. So lots of noise, hard to find the signal for potential upsells or bigger deals.
Exactly. Without that direct conversation, understanding intent and potential is much tougher. That's where things like PQLs, product qualified leads, become super important later on.
Right, identifying users who are actually using the product in meaningful ways. We can maybe circle back to that.
Definitely.
Okay, so that's the self-serve engine. Let's shift gears. What about the transactional model? The articles suggest this comes into play when the price goes up.
Correct. As the price increases, the perceived risk for the customer also goes up. They're less likely to just click buy based on a web page. They want some human interaction.
A bit more reassurance, maybe?
Yeah, and often more specific questions answered. So the typical structure here involves inside sales teams.
Okay, so actual salespeople involved now?
Right, but often working remotely, hence inside sales. They work closely with marketing's online efforts. It's not just a quick close. It's about building a bit of a relationship, understanding needs.
Nurturing the lead, as they say.
Exactly. And marketing's role changes too, as you'd expect.
How so? Still bringing in leads, I assume.
Yes, lead generation is still key. But the articles highlight that marketing is rarely solely responsible for revenue here. It's more about teeing up leads for sales.
So warming them up with content, developing the pipeline, and then handing off to sales for the close.
That's a good summary. Marketing supports the journey, sales closes the deal.
And the sources mention something interesting, that companies often move from self-serve to transactional.
Yeah, that's a very common transition. As a SaaS company matures, maybe they want to target larger customers, or their product develops features that solve more complex problems.
Problems that need a conversation to explain the solution properly.
Precisely. And those larger customers often expect to talk to someone. It signals a shift, from purely product-led growth towards a more sales-assisted or sales-led motion.
A hybrid approach, almost.
Kind of, but it's a big shift.
Yeah.
New processes, hiring salespeople, changing how marketing works with sales.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But like self-serve, transactional has its own challenges, right? I think the articles mention lower lead volume.
Generally, yes. Compared to the potential flood of free signups and self-serve, you'll likely have fewer, but hopefully more qualified leads coming in for a higher priced product.
Which means you really need to focus on the right leads.
Absolutely. Qualifying those leads effectively becomes critical. Your sales team's time is valuable, it's finite, so you need to point them towards the opportunities with the highest chance of closing. Prioritization is key.
Okay, that covers transactional. Now the third one, enterprise. This sounds like the big leagues.
It really is. The articles paint a picture of complexity. We're talking dedicated sales teams, sometimes multiple specialized teams.
Specialized how?
You might have people who just identify potential accounts, others who nurture relationships, technical experts for demos, people who handle negotiations, and then account managers for ongoing support.
Wow, okay, so a whole structure built around landing these big fish.
Exactly. These are typically high-value, complex, long-term contracts. It requires a significant investment from the sales team to understand the client's entire organization, build relationships with multiple stakeholders.
Sounds like a marathon, not a sprint.
Definitely. The articles emphasize the lengthy sales cycles, months, sometimes even years.
And I imagine the cost of pursuing a deal that doesn't close is pretty high then.
Extremely high. That's a major challenge highlighted. Think about all the resources poured into discovery, demos, travel maybe, proposals. If that lead wasn't properly qualified or the deal falls through late stage, that's a huge drain.
A costly mistake. So qualification is even more critical here than in transactional.
Absolutely paramount. You need deep understanding of their business, their buying process, the politics involved sometimes. It's high stakes.
So we've got these three models, self-serve, transactional, enterprise, and the readings really hammer home the connection between the model, the price, and the complexity, don't they?
They really do. It boils down to alignment.
Right. The articles give examples, like trying to force a simple, cheap product through a complex enterprise sales process. That would feel weird, right?
Totally inefficient. Or the opposite, having a really complex, expensive solution and just hoping people will sign up via self-serve with no help.
Also unlikely to work. It creates friction if the sales process doesn't match the product's value and complexity.
Exactly. The price, the sales process complexity, how you acquire customers, it all has to link up. Your annual customer value, or ACV, basically dictates what kind of sales and marketing efforts are even sustainable.
Because your customer acquisition cost, your TAC, can't be higher than the value they bring in.
Precisely. You can't spend $10,000 to acquire a customer who's only going to pay you $1,000 over their lifetime.
And this alignment or misalignment is something investors look at very closely, according to the sources.
Oh, absolutely. A well-aligned model shows an efficient path to growth. A mismatch, that shows up as high TAC, high burn rate.
Red flags for investors.
Big red flags. It suggests the fundamental economics might be broken.
Okay, this is really tying it all together. Now, one article mentioned something specific, refiner, as a potential solution for companies moving upmarket.
Ah, yeah. That connects back to the challenge in the self-serve model, identifying quality leads.
How does it help?
Well, the idea is that tools like Refiner analyze actual user behavior within the product, along with demographic data. They help pinpoint users who aren't just signed up, but are actively engaged, and match your ideal profile for a larger deal.
So finding those PQLs we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It gives sales teams data-driven insights saying, hey, this free user is actually showing all the signs of being ready for a bigger plan or needing a sales conversation.
That sounds like a smart way to bridge that gap, moving from purely self-serve towards maybe a transactional or even enterprise approach for certain segments.
It helps make that transition more efficient, focusing sales efforts where they're most likely to pay off based on actual product usage, not just guesswork.
Very interesting. Okay, so just to sort of wrap up the core ideas, we've got self-serve, driven by marketing and product for low-cost, simple stuff.
Right. Minimal human touch needed.
Then transactional, bringing in inside sales for mid-range products where relationships and guidance start to matter more.
More interaction, higher price point generally.
And finally, enterprise, with those dedicated specialized teams managing complex, high-value, long-term deals.
The most resource-intensive, but with the biggest potential payoff per deal.
And the big takeaway from all the material seems crystal clear. Choosing and aligning that sales model isn't just an operational detail.
No, it's deeply strategic. Get it right, and it fuels growth, efficiency, attracts funding. Get it wrong.
And you're fighting an uphill battle. Even with a great product, it impacts everything.
It really does. The alignment between product, market, price, and sales motion is fundamental.
So maybe a final thought for our listener, thinking about the sources we discussed, what parts of these models really resonate with whatever context you're looking at?
Yeah, and maybe thinking about the early signs. How can you tell if the model you have chosen, or are considering, is actually clicking? Is it truly aligned with the product, the audience, the price?
It really underscores how interconnected everything is in building a successful SaaS business, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a complex machine, and the sales model is a critical gear.